Hey, this is Big Guy DIY Robert coming to you with a video. This one we will be changing the torsion springs, or better known as ride height springs, on two snowmobiles, which are, I'm surprised how different the springs are. So let's turn the camera around, look at our next victim here for updates. So I've been pretty busy getting the sleds ready for this season. This will be another video, but this is a 2001 Skidoo MXZ800. Chain case blew up on this last season, so I never even got to ride it. This sled will be in this video. This is a 2012 Skidoo GXS SE 800 E-Tec. This has the, what do you call it? The pneumatic shock that's in the rear skid. So we're putting new torsion springs in this one. And this one here is a 2014 Renegade 600 E-Tec. Rear skid on this one is the R motion. So both the 2014 and the GSX are different chassis. This is an XR chassis. This one here is the XS chassis. So let me open up these boxes here that came in, and we'll see what we got here. So the reason for changing out these ride height springs is because when a snowmobile is manufactured, it's manufactured to fit a certain weight of a rider. So if it's a 2-up, you're obviously going to have heavier springs in it. If it's a single riding sled, you're going to have lighter springs in it. The problem is the riding height springs that are put in a sled are built for the average weight of a human being. So if you're like, I'm going to say 240, 250, 240, 250 pounds or greater, the springs, you're stressing them out after a while. You're going to have a short life. So Skidoo does make a heavier spring for single riding sleds. I call them fat boy springs because I am a fat boy. I weigh in with gear probably 325. I wouldn't be surprised if it says 330 on there. The gear that I wear is not light gear. And as you proceed to ride, that gear, even though it's quote unquote waterproof, will still absorb a little moisture, and it just weighs it down. The other thing that weighs down a sled is the ice that collects underneath the tunnel. Now that ice is very important to the tunnel because that's where that's what's used to cool your sled. And I forgot the extrudes. Anyways, let's say your radiator is underneath the tunnel. As the snow hits that, all your antifreeze for a liquid cool sled goes through these extrudes and keeps the sled cool, but it also adds weight to the sled. And yeah, you get snow packed into the skid, but that's different. We're talking about the chassis itself. So finding these torque springs is actually quite difficult. You won't find them unless you, I have to consider myself pretty savvy on the internet for finding certain parts for a lot of the stuff that I repair. Finding the best price, and I do search both here through Canada and sometimes even Europe for certain parts. But these parts here, these springs, you're not going to find because it's done totally different through Skidoo. So even if you go to a Skidoo dealership, depending on how long they've been selling Skidoos, there's a good chance they may not find it. But if it's a Skidoo dealership that's been selling Skidoos for 20 plus years, they're going to find it. They understand what you're looking for. And the reason I can say that is because I already ran into this situation. I have a Skidoo dealership. That is no joke. 6 to 9 miles from my house. And he couldn't find it. Had no clue. Went to another Skidoo dealership. It's a half-hour ride for me. 40-minute ride. And they've been selling Skidoos 30 plus years. And I gave them a call, told them what I'm looking for. They gave me a call 45 minutes later and found the part and special ordered it for me, and I had it in 3 days. So it definitely makes a difference on the dealership you work with. So what I want to do is show you the difference in the springs between an 800 and 600. I thought they would be similar in size, or the diameter of the leaf spring itself, but apparently that's not the case. So I will show you, and I also put in the description as well at the in the video what spring, what the part numbers are. So here's my first spring. This is the right side. This is for the 800. Okay, on camera it probably doesn't look like much, but let me pull out the 600. Now the 600 I have set up with a 2-up seat, and then I have the Link Q seat back that attaches to my 600. So I set it up so my wife and daughter could ride the sled, or just my daughter, or I and my wife could ride the sled, but I needed that support, that spring, to hold 2 people. This is a 600. You can see the difference in size of these. And I'm surprised. I thought the 600 would be very close to the 800 regards to size. This one is this the left or the right? This is the left, because it has to go up. This is the left side and this is the right side. Springs. Here's our springs right here. Our torsion springs. We also call them ride height springs, because as you sit on a sled, the sled will squat to a certain level, and you do it basically based on your weight. Adjustments are done through this block here, depending on how much tension you want against the spring, based on your weight. So right now I'm on 4. So I just got 1 more setting and that's it. I'm maxed out. This should be on 3 or 2 for 2 people. So, and then a single person, you probably ride this on 1 or 2, depending on their weight. So say, for example, my daughter, who's only 100 pounds, she would ride this on 1 for her weight. That way, the bumps are not so jarring. To remove this, the first thing I did is, the thing to take in consideration is the track is under tension, okay? if you lift the back of your sled up, that kind of puts more tension on the track because it's hanging off here. But then if you don't put any weight and say you squish the rear end, well, then that puts tension on your springs. Because remember, it's squatting the track and everything down. So when I do this, I actually don't lift the back of the sled up. I don't hang it up so the track will hang. And I'm not doing anything to, I mean, it's sitting on the ground, but I don't have any weight on it. I've taken off my luggage, water. I might even take off the seat. I don't know, probably not. But what I did do is I got a strap right here holding this track up. And I need to change where I have the strap. I want the strap as close as I can to this wheel. And that's going to help hold this track up, because the first thing I have to do to get at this spring is I got to take the tension off it. That's turning this back here. Oh, there we go. This here down to 0 or 1, whatever is lowest. Then we got to unbolt it here. I don't think there's anything. Yeah, it just bolts straight in. Then here we have a locking key ring. I think you could see that. That has to come off next. Then this has to be loosened but not removed. So this can slide off. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. And once this comes off, then the wheel should come off. And then with a little manipulation, this spring should come off. So I'm going to start working on this now. I'll try to do this where you can see it as I take it apart with the best lighting. Socket for this is 16 millimeters. One thing I was looking is on the back side of this, meaning in here, there's also a locking ring, you know, like this. And, but I don't know if that's holding I can't quite tell if it's holding a bearing inside here or not. My guess is it is, since that is a pivot point. Well, I answered my question. That locking ring has to come off. I'll show you across. See if we can zoom in on this. Come on, there we go. See the locking ring? That has to come off. There's one thing I didn't want to do, but I guess you have to. You got to loosen the tension of your track, which is done by here. Now there is a stop nut inside here, but you still can loosen this. And I came out about 1 inch. What I did, let me get a flashlight here. I used a yellow paint marker, so you can see the yellow line there. So that's so I know my stopping point when I screw this back in to put tension on the track. You You can see it, I did it on the far one as well. So I loosen the track tension. I guess I can't. So now my wheel spins freely. I took this locking pin off. Okay. And then I removed this bolt. So this here will open up and slide off here. This here does not spin out. What it is, it's actually, let's see if I can get some light here. The bolt is actually bolted into this, let's call it an axle. Then the axle goes through here. So to keep this piece on the axle, as I showed you across here, you have a locking pin there. You have to take that off, and then there's a washer behind it. And here it is. So this here is off the back side of this. This all came off a lot easier once I took the tension off the track. So to get this axle off, now I hammered this and I'm able to, excuse the noise, I'm able to create a space right in here. What there is there's flat sides on this axle here and here. So I need to find a wrench, then go in here and hit the flat sides. I don't want to take any kind of like vice grips or channel locks and grab where the locking ring goes on, because I don't want to damage that. But I need to stop this from spinning, because this spins all the way through. So I gotta find, by hammering this inward, I create a space, and I'm hoping I can get a wrench on the inside of that, hold it, and then we can spin this out. Once we spin that out, then this will come off. So let me work on that, because I don't know how long it'll take. All right, got it out, and I'm going to show you how I did it, because it's not easy. Take note of this yellow mark, and I'll explain why when I get the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the other side and show you how I did it. All right. Now, one thing you will need to take these snap rings off. I don't know what word I was using earlier, but I couldn't remember it. Are snap ring tools. I have a kit here. So for different angles, different size holes in a snap ring, you will need either the straight or right angle. You definitely need the right angle for up here. You could also use it down here. You don't have to have this for this and the right angle for the top. It doesn't matter. Right can do both. So first thing I did was I removed the snap rings. Next, I remove the bolt. This is 13 millimeter. Next, take your paper pen, or you can use a Sharpie. Paper pen. This is a paint pen. Now, I'm gonna cut myself. The reason I'm doing this is this piece does not pivot up and down on here. This is toothed. Okay? And it slides on in a specific location only. So if you get this off, you just don't put it on and think you're gonna go up with it. Doesn't work that way with this. It's toothed. So you have to make that mark to remember the angle that it has to go in. So next is to remove this back locking ring. My head is probably going to be in the way for this. I try to do is pull the locking ring down so I could get this tool on it. And there's a washer here. Then, taking a hammer and just whack this to kind of loosen it up. So, like I said, there's a flat space. Two flat spots, one in here and one in here. This whole axle will spin if you're trying to remove this bolt. So I took a break and I ran out and picked up this tool so I can get in here. But the thing is the distance between your mounting bracket and this aluminum piece, there's not enough room to get a box wrench in there. It's wicked thin. So my workaround, taking a pry bar and going to the top up here between the bracket and the aluminum piece, I just pry it open enough to get this tool in here, and now I'm on the flat parts. So there we go. So you can see your two flat spots here. Now, this needs to come off. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on this. This is plastic here. So I'm just kind of turning the tool a little and just wiggling this to get off. Kind of amazes me is there is no grease in any of this. All I say is WTF to that, if you know what that means. I mean, that's pretty stupid, considering what this is exposed to. Spring. So we gotta kind of keep this in order. So, now that that's done, at least I got this off. Now, we gotta focus on this. We gotta take this off. It's an Allen wrench on the inside, and then there's a regular nut on the back side. So I'm gonna see, I don't know if this is metric or SAE, but we'll find out. So let me show you. Let me show you what we're taking off here. So you can see the metric Allen wrench hole that's 6 millimeters. Then on the back side is that nut right there. My flashlight is lighting up, so I'll just move it off to the side here. So that is 13 millimeters. So this has to come off. Now when you do this, there's a lot of tension on this spring right here, and it's gonna drop like crazy. So when it comes time to putting this back up, we're going to be using a pry bar to get it up in place and get the nut started. So there's the setup right there. So now we drop the spring down, and there we go. Out she comes. Part number LH is left-hand side. So the number that's important, well, besides the first 6 numbers, because that means the 600 R motion skid, it's the last 3 numbers. Skidoo defines the last 3 numbers in regards to medium, soft, hard. So 271 and 270 are your stiffest springs that you can buy for your snowmobile. Then they got your stock spring, and then they got a softer spring, lower than the stock spring. Show you a couple of things. When I was removing this, okay, this is on the axle or part of your suspension, and then this is over your axle. This goes over here. You got your, what is it, like this, okay? In this top part, this is what's held up by this piece. Hope you can see that well. It goes in like so, and then you have your lock ring on the back side. If you break this lock ring, it will not show in the 2014 suspension schematics. What it shows is this, the washer, and the bolt. It shows nothing about a lock ring. We had to, at the dealership today, we had to go to a 2015, and then we got the breakout like this. You can replace this, this, and this. You cannot replace these lock rings. So if you bend it like I did, this is what you do. You go to your vise, and you just bend it back. And there we go. So you can't replace these based on buying it as a part from Skidoo. The other thing I wanted to show you is, technically speaking, when you are dropping your suspension to remove this piece here, you're only supposed to pull the bolt out. You saw that I showed you I removed this. The reason why is between the frame on the chassis and here, you can't get a regular box wrench put in there. It's too thick. So there's a couple of options you have, and I'll show you the last one. First one is that flat spot on this piece is 7/8. You can take this to a bench grinder and grind it down so it's thin enough to fit inside. That way you don't have to take the locking ring off. Or you can buy these. These are similar to a channel lock. Let me show you a regular channel lock compared to this. Can you see the difference here? This one here slides straight up and down. A channel lock somewhat does that, but it's not designed for nuts. This one here is designed to do nuts or bolts. And so you push the button to get it to where you need it, and it'll close on it without stripping the head of the bolt. Here, because you got a smaller jaw, you have a chance of stripping that nut or bolt. So that's another option. Third option is needle nose vice grips. You can again grind these down to get it in there, like so. Okay, they are a little on the thick side, so they would not require that much grinding to get in there. But today I found out Skidoo actually makes the tool for it, and they sell it. So here's your part number. Here, I think you can read it now. This tool is 13 bucks. So it'll allow me to get in there like so. So for future work on any of my sleds or my friend's sleds, we no longer have to take this locking ring off in order to create the space on this side between the chassis and these flat pieces, which is what I did. So what we're gonna do is, by putting this back on, I'm gonna reinstall the locking ring on here now. That way it's already on there. I don't have to worry about losing it. When you put these locking, before I do that, I made a comment about no grease. We're gonna grease this stuff. 2 greases I'm gonna use. Totally waterproof, won't wash off. This is used in the marine industry, Evan Rue Johnson. I didn't get this at the Skidoo dealership. I got this at a marina. But I use this stuff religiously on boats, especially boats in salt water, just because this will never wash off. So for sleds, this is perfect. When I slide this back on, though, I am not going to use this grease. I'm going to use anti-seize instead, just because we got aluminum and this is sliding onto steel. I'm going to use the grease inside this point, though. I'm also going to put in the wheels that I removed. Now that I have this tool, I can reinstall this and not have to try to install this snap ring. You can see it. When this arm is back on the sled. So we're going to reassemble this. Our washer. When you put these snap rings on, so we don't overbend it, you open it just enough so it fits over the axle. And there we go. So when you're putting this on, first thing you got to do is this short piece has to go on top of your height adjuster. Alright. Next, the square part of the rod has to go through here. Now I cleaned all the hardware that I took off. I wire brushed it all. And we're going to use grease on a lot of this stuff that we're putting back together, just to kind of avoid corrosion. Your two washers go on the inside of your skid, not against this. And this comes the fun part. Whew. Muscling it in. Whew. There we go. I'm going to tighten this up now. So, backing on. Wheel. spring. Cover number 1. I'm wondering. I didn't know if the spring sat on the outside of this or not, but it doesn't. It sits flush against it. I was just curious. I labeled these wrong. See the difference? There's a ring here, no ring here. This is supposed to be the last one on. There we go. There. That's on. Next we'll get to try to get this to line up, but I want to put the other side on. So we're going to pause here while I install the other side. Alright, the last thing to put on here is the bolt. It goes through. And we're just going to put a little grease on this. There's no Loctite needed because this is a nylock nut, meaning it has that plastic insert bolted in place. When I started this, I had a strap that came down around the track here, pulled the track up. That idea was to take tension off these wheels, so the track was not sitting on the wheels at all. And the track is still loose because I haven't done my alignment screw. But when you drop your chassis back down, this here is back here where my finger is. So I was trying to figure a way to get this to collapse that way. So what I have here, strap going to the front, hook going in front of the skid. Here's the strap, comes up, goes around the top here, comes out over there, and it's going to the skid. With the ratchet, I'm able to pull it from this location here to this location. You will also need screwdrivers or pry bars because this flathead or this bushing here that you got to put the bolt into will get hung up in here. Let me go to the other side where there's more light. So now you can see better. So this part here will get hung up in here inside the chassis. So by kind of collapsing this down forward, you're collapsing the shock forward to get you better alignment. So right now, I just need to pull down. I'm going to pull on it now because I don't want it to drop quickly. But I'm going to set my camera up and pull this down. We should be able to get our bolt in there. So did you get that? So to try to get this lined up, have a block under there. Have the straps here, tight. Pull this down. I also have these straps holding the rear end up. So what I'm doing is, with the block, it's pushing the suspension up. With the strap, it's pulling the suspension in. And with these straps, I'm pulling the whole skid up and down to line it up with that one hole. It may... it may take two people. I'm trying to do this by myself, but it's not an easy job. So that's how you do the springs on a 600. Attach this video. I'm next going to do the 800 in this same video. That's an SC5 skid, or this is an R motion skid. So they're attached to the chassis, or to the aluminum, you know, right up here. They're attached differently, two different types, even though they use the same spring. Two different ways to remove it. The other one, if it's anything like the 2001, it's a little tricky. You definitely need a pneumatic tool if it is like I think it is. So we conclude this one. So next, we'll work on the 800. One thing I forgot to say is, after you get your bolt in, don't forget to do your track tension. You got to bring that back. So remember, I did the yellow mark, so I just screw it into the yellow mark till it hits the stop back here.